There are some nights that etch themselves into your soul, nights when silence speaks louder than words, and the sound of someone's breath can change everything you thought you knew about love, loss, and the invisible threads that tie two hearts together. I thought she was asleep that night. I really did. The rain whispered against the glass, and I was sitting there staring at the faint glow of her bedside lamp. Then, out of nowhere, in a trembling, half-broken whisper, she said the words that froze me where I sat. "You always breathe different when I'm near." Before we continue, if this story already has your heart beating a little faster, hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Kindness Universe for more stories that touch the soul and remind you what it means to be human. It started months before that night. I met Maya in one of those moments life doesn't warn you about. A random coffee shop on a rainy afternoon when both of us were hiding from storms, just in different ways. She was sitting near the window, sketching in a small notebook with torn edges. Her hair was tied in a loose bun, strands falling like wild waves around her face. I remember thinking she looked like someone trying to hold the world together with fragile fingers. I had no intention of talking to her. But then she dropped her pencil and it rolled toward me. When I picked it up, our eyes met. And there it was, that spark. That small, unexplainable pull that makes you forget who you were before that second. We talked for hours that day, about everything and nothing, about how she used to draw to escape her anxiety, how her mother's laughter used to sound like Sunday mornings, how I'd lost my father last winter and still woke up expecting to hear his voice. It wasn't love at first sight, it was something quieter, deeper, like two souls recognizing the same loneliness in each other. Weeks turned into months. Maya and I began meeting almost every evening. After work. She became my calm in a world that wouldn't stop spinning. Her apartment was small but warm. Soft fairy lights, the scent of coffee always in the air, a half-finished painting drying on the floor. She said she never finished anything because she was afraid of endings. Sometimes she'd sit with her head on my shoulder while sketching, her breathing slow, steady, like the rhythm of a song I didn't know I needed. I never told her how I'd hold my breath whenever she got too close, not out of nervousness, but because being near her made the world feel fragile, as if one wrong exhale might shatter it. But love isn't always peaceful. It carries its storms too. Maya started to pull away. She'd cancel plans, stop replying for days. Her laughter, once bright and reckless, became forced, like she was performing happiness instead of feeling it. One night, I showed up at her place unannounced. The lights were off except for one dim lamp. She was sitting on the floor, surrounded by sketches. All of them were of the same person, me. But in every drawing, my face looked different, sadder, lonelier, fading a little more each time. "Maya," I whispered, kneeling beside her, "what's going on?" She didn't answer right away. She just looked at me, eyes glistening, and said softly, "I can't draw you anymore." "Why?" I asked. "Because every time I do, it feels like I'm preparing to lose you." I didn't understand then what she meant. I thought it was just fear of commitment, of being hurt. I promised her I wasn't going anywhere, but the truth was she was already fighting a battle I couldn't see. A few days later, she told me she'd been diagnosed with a heart condition, something genetic, something that made every heartbeat unpredictable. She said she didn't tell me earlier because she didn't want my love to turn into pity. I remember the way she smiled that day, calm, almost brave, and said, "If I have to count my days, I want to count them with you." And from that day on, every sunrise, every shared breath, every silence between us meant more than it ever did before. We fell into a rhythm. Hospital visits, art therapy sessions, walks under the rain. She started painting again, not the kind of art that hides pain, but the kind that bleeds with it. I'd sit beside her bed at night, listening to her hum old songs while I read aloud. Sometimes she'd fall asleep mid-laugh, and I'd just watch her, memorize the way her chest rose and fell, the faint curve of her smile. Then came that night, the one I'll never forget. It was raining again. She had just come home after another long hospital day. I tucked her in, dimmed the lights, and sat by her bed, exhausted but unwilling to leave. I thought she was asleep. Her breathing was slow, her eyes closed. Then, in that fragile stillness, her voice broke the air. "You always breathe different when I'm near." I froze. My heart pounded so hard it almost hurt. I didn't know she noticed. She opened her eyes, a faint smile trembling on her lips. "You stopped trying to be strong," she whispered. "You let yourself be real. That's how I know you love me. Not from what you say, but from how you breathe." I wanted to say something, to tell her I'd never stop loving her, that I'd trade every breath I had if it meant keeping hers a little longer. But before I could, she reached out and placed her hand on my chest. "Promise me," she said softly, "when I'm gone, you'll still breathe like this, for both of us." If this story has touched your heart so far, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to Kindness Universe. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts around the world. She passed away 2 weeks later, peacefully, in her sleep. No warnings, no last words, just silence and the echo of that sentence haunting the corners of my mind. "You always breathe different when I'm near." The first few weeks after, I couldn't breathe at all. The world felt empty, like I'd been cut in half. I'd wake up in the middle of the night expecting to hear her voice or see her sketchbook lying on the table. But all I found were unfinished drawings and the faint scent of her perfume lingering on the pillows. One evening, I went back to the coffee shop where we met. It was raining again, and for a second I swore I saw her reflection in the window. I sat at our old table, pulled out one of her sketches from my bag, and just breathed. And that's when I realized maybe she was right. Love doesn't end when someone's gone. It lives on in the quiet moments, in the way you inhale when a song reminds you of them, in the rhythm of your heart when you stand where they once stood. Maya taught me that the soul doesn't measure love in years or words. It measures it in breaths. Every one of mine since that night has carried a piece of her. Ending message. So if you've ever lost someone who made your heart beat differently, don't hold your breath in grief. Breathe for them. Love harder. Live louder. Because sometimes the most beautiful promise you can keep is to keep breathing. This is Kindness Universe. If Maya's story touched you, leave a comment below with a heart emoji, subscribe for more stories like this, and remember, kindness isn't just what you give to others. It's what you breathe into the world every day.